Alrighty, so I'm going to be covering my childhood experiences, adolescence experiences, missing time experiences, adult experiences, my mission, my lab and MK Ultra experiences, uh, how something stopped my mission. I hope I can have time to just touch on that a little bit, but I did get back into it, of course. My return to my mission and support groups that I facilitate, as well as my school mission that I have. So I just want to say I am not a result of what happened to me in my life. It is not who I am. I will share small portions of my experiences, but I want you to know that you can transform anything negative that has happened to you or seemingly negative that has happened to you into what I call love and light. You know, I want to tell you what joy and positive things have come out of my life by transmuting this anger, fear, and hate. That I did it at a time, had for ETs and others, government organizations, and even myself because of the experiences in my life. Now I've come back from this place, and I know that if I can come back from this place and forgive and transmute everything to love and light, that just everybody can do this, because we are spiritual souls having a human life. This is just a matrix that we live in. So to tell you about Starseed Awakening groups, I facilitate support groups with people who are experiencers of ET contact. Like I have a Sunday group that is for ET experiencers, contacts, and we even go into the My Lab experience for the first 2 hours. And the second 2 hours, we have experiencers of MK Ultra, Monarch, Target Individual, Ritual Abuse, Super Soldiers, just about all the gamuts of everything that is in that umbrella of the MK Ultra and all the different projects that people have been forced to be involved in. Within these groups, you can share, just like this webinar today. You can share, and it's on Zoom, just like this webinar today, and you can share your experiences. You can be either on video or off video, and people share their experiences. So then the other group I have is on Thursday, every Thursday at, I change anywhere from 2 to 4 to 3 to 5. And those groups are for specifically MK Ultra, and all the different my labs, targeted individuals. You know, there's so many targeted individuals going on, because now I'm from the Monarch generation, where you had more of the physical, where they abducted you. You were gone for months, possibly even years at a time. You had an altar, which I will explain later, that kind of took over for you and your life. But the people now, what they learned from the Monarch, they're using on these people now, which is the psychotronic warfare, transhumanism, all these different types of things that the factions of the shadow government have now learned how to do through, of course, the paperclip. So scientists that came over from Germany and taught them how to do the mind control. I myself support these mini groups, as well as I do have one other group that I'd like to tell you about. That is on Saturday. Today I'm going to have a really full day, because today I have my radio show, and then right after that I have my support group for people who have downloads, their channeling, their psychic abilities are enhanced, they're getting premonitions, precognitions, their dreams. Right now dreams are going crazy, and a lot of people are experiencing phenomenal dreams of parallel existence, and in order to make some kind of understanding of this, it is really good to come to these groups and share with other people. Also, of course, your dreams and the interpretations of them, as well as channeling. So we allow people to channel if they. As myself, I'm a galactic channeler. I channel past lives of my own as a galactic. Also, I am in contact with a group of hybrids and also a galactic group of ETs. And so I do light language in many, many different types of communication forms. Also with these different dialects, when I do share these, people may not know what is being said, but they usually will get a message. And then, of course, in the group, a lot of the time, we'll have also trans-channelers who can actually edify and who can translate what those ETs have sent the message on. So I, of course, do hypnotherapy and regression, and my specialty is trauma recovery and past life regression. I work with people who are post-traumatic stress and people working through other types of trauma. In many methods, I strive to help people release fear and trauma. This is the most important thing. Hypnosis will bring those memories out, but they are still stuck in the cell memories, and we must work and release and clear those cell memories in order to transmute the experiences and actually put them full-fledged into your life, and you can actually act on them. A lot of people, like I said, have psychic abilities because of these things. The sessions that I also have are what I call multidimensional sessions. So through those sessions, I will do light language and give messages to people about that. Of course, I mentioned I have a radio show every Saturday from 12 to 3, and I bring in different guests and such. Next week, maybe you can tune in. I have David Adair, or the rocket scientist. I also am a part of Transcending Realities, which is a TV show on iVolve TV. Now, just to kind of start here with my own experiences as a part of a mind control family. My father was in secret societies. He also was in the Rosicrucian Black Magicians. He was himself mind controlled. He was an illusionist. He had a show, the Great London Ghost Show, that he, as you can see pictures here at the bottom, that he would go in the summertime, and sometimes even in school time. He took the kids out of school. Took my 3 older siblings out on the road with him, and they all entertained. And my father would do hypnosis on stage. He did mind reading. He did all kinds of things. And to be honest with you, I believe my father really was and did have a lot of amazing abilities. Before the children were even born, my father came home one night after a meeting of the magicians and secret societies that he belonged to, and he said to my mother, there are so many amazing things that the mind can do and that we can do as humans, and we are so much more. And he said, but it comes with such a great price. And he put a cup, there was a cup on the table, and he just moved that with his mind. So my father also had a special ring. I know it was from the society he was belonged to, and he used to use it, as he said, to tell if we were telling the truth, and he really could psychically get the message. Now, for me, well, let me just go ahead to one picture, and then I'm going to go back. I'm part of a family of 10. I am number 9, but there was one more born after me. According to what my father told me on a deathbed, he was very, very sorry what he did to me and what he had to basically pass me over. But it was to be the first and the last. The first one died of a disease. I'm trying to think what it is, but she died of it. She died, and so therefore they had to have another one. I believe they continued on throughout my parents' lives, trying to abscond with more with children, but my parents, I believe, when my father had the lucidity of knowing that he had children and he wasn't in the mind control state, I think he fought it, because one by one the children were killed in the most odd ways, in strange ways, like carbon monoxide poisoning in a car, a pneumonia that should have been able to be healed. A child, one of the children were hit in the back of the head with a heel, with a neighbor kid supposedly hit him with a high heel, and another child had SIDS, and then the last child was stillborn. So, as my father said to me, he said, I had to pass one child over to them, because your mother could not handle losing any more children. My father started the mind control, trauma-based mind control on me about 3 years old, and not to go into detail, but trauma-based mind control is designed to split people's personalities, to split them into alters. And my father, during some of the, and a lot of them have to do with sexual trauma, which is the number one they like to use. So sexual trauma that actually makes you split. And my father, I remember, would say to me, you have to learn how to go someplace else. You have to learn how to leave. And he said, because the pain that you're having now is nothing to what you're going to have. You must learn how to leave. So my father was my handler, of course, and the handler is someone who handles you throughout your life. They make sure that you are to the destinations where the other perpetrators and handlers are, or to the places where your whatever jobs or missions or projects they want you to do. So that's what a handler does. My father also would take me to, in fact, I remember the basement. I was terrified of the basement. There was actually a tunnel that went to a very large kind of mansion type house in just kitty corner from our house, and it was basically more like, not a mansion, it was more like a big old haunted house. No one would go there. No one would rent it. No one would buy it. It was very strange. Well, the reason was that they were running rituals out of it, and so that went on throughout my life. And at 9 years old, I was put into service. Now, going to another part of my life is, I believe that we choose the home, the family. We choose the parents that we are born into, and I did choose this family for, I believe, my learning and my mission that was to come later in life, which is now. And I'm, of course, we are such spiritual beings that on the other side we can see how what happens as a child is going to really affect and help us, or hinder us, whichever way you choose to go. I chose to go to the helping. And so my first encounters were at 3 years old, the same time that I believe my trauma-based trauma started. Was also, I had these lovely little fellows called, I call them BGs because they look like bears to me. As I remember, got older and I started seeing pictures, I saw this mammalian picture on the left there, and it seemed very much like that was what it looked like. But then when I went to Star Wars and I saw the Ewoks, I was just absolutely, I almost screamed in the theater because I knew that was them. And since then in my group, I've met many people who have also had BG encounters. Now, I lived in Idaho, so perhaps are the BGs kind of part of the Bigfoot family? It's possible. Now, as a child, I also had experience with what I call the willowy one. Um, I went from about 3 years old to 6 having encounters with BGs, but then around 6 years old, things seemed to change, and now I had a willowy one. In fact, people who talk about maybe seeing animals at their windows or seeing figures at their windows or even seeing animals in their home would these are some of the anomalies of an experiencer, such as myself. I saw 3 deers that would come to my window, and when I saw the deers, I knew it was time to go. So I was taken on the board of the ship for many, many times, all types of different kinds of experience. As a child, I remember, like with the Bee Gees, I learned how to fly, basically. You know, I'd spread my arms out and I could fly over the tops of the building, of the roofs of the homes, and it was just wonderful. It was so freeing. Also, in these memories, I have encounters with types that, well, actually, I was able to feel it. I don't because I remember how. Because you know when you have these experiences, you'll wake up and you'll have paralysis, and you can't move in your bed, and or you'll feel this big wham to your body, wake up, and you have paralysis. So on board the ships, you have that same kind of paralysis and you can't move. Now, many people have learned how to be able to move, like such as Travis Walton. He got himself to move and then was able to get up and actually scared them out of the room. I had another man in my group who he was laying there. They were beside his bed, the little grays, and he said, I have to move, I have to move, I have to move, I have to move my arm. And he just kept doing that until all of a sudden he was able to free his arm and move his arm, and he whacked one, and he heard this crack, and the other scooped the other up and zipped out of sight. So they can, actually, they make mistakes too. There's other experiences that I've had in my group because I've had facilitated support groups since 1992. I had the first children's group. I also had teen and young adult groups, and of course groups for men and women, also a group for women, because there's so many private things that happen in an experience that women need to be able to share with other women about. So these are really important to have these experiences groups, so that somebody you can share your experience with. That way you don't feel like you're so crazy, you know. One of my other experiences were I saw the 3 deers. And the next thing I remember, I'm in the memory that I have, I will just say the marker memory I have, that I am in a vehicle with a woman who has a straight little black hair like the one here, and big black eyes. And in my mind, she was a nurse. She was a nurse. She had white on, so I guess in my mind she became a nurse. Then the next thing I remember, like I said, I'm in a vehicle. I take to be a car, but I don't know. But next thing I know, I'm standing in a field, and I can move my head any way I want. I look up, and there's this huge ship above me with oscillating circles, and they're going different directions. And I also feel that there's someone behind me, but I know somehow when I looked, I can see them, but they're huge. They're so tall. So my next memory is I'm on board the ship. I am laying, and there's some kind of a gynecological examination going on, and it's very terrifying to me because I was 16 years old, and I had no idea what was going on with me, and I was getting very frightened. And then the willowy one, which is the drawing here that I've done, that's the closest way they look. Now I do have a drawing from Kasar that is very close, and he leans over, looks in my eyes, and telepathically tells me, "Do not worry, we're not hurt you. This is necessary for the hybrid program." Now this is him. This is the willowy one, and because he was quite white, at this experience, within, I don't know, it was just a few minutes or what, but the next memory I have is I'm laying on that same table and I see some figures in the distance in little ways, because this is like a huge room. I cannot believe how big this room is. And I see these cloaked figures, 3 of them, and I ask, I recognize one of you. I feel this kindred energy. I remember this energy, and I said, "I know you. Who are you?" And one of them stepped forward. He dropped his cloak, and he was a reptilian. That was the last thing I remembered. I was out, because that was, even though I had this feeling of a kindred family energy, my conscious mind kind of took over, and I was afraid, and I went to sleep. So throughout my life, I've also had experiences where I was taken by another group of ETs. Unlike the willowy one, it was more of the shorter grays would come to my home. Now, I can't tell you if those grays look different than the other ones. It's very hard to tell, but they would come and they would take me, and they would take me to another kind of mantis being. The mantis being would take me in underground bases, and this happened from teenage life on. I have a very simple drawing here of the experience, and there you see a military, if you can even see it. There you see a military uniformed fellow with a gun, and then over here are grays. Now I watched as I walked with this tall gray. I watched as these 2 grays in the robes were on some kind of a panel, and they did something, and then all of a sudden this wall just opened up into, I don't exactly know what it was. I couldn't tell you. It was but then they walked through that wall. This is just a drawing of the experience where I did see the reptilian. Okay, so now I'm going to go back again into the part of my life that is the trauma-based mind control and all of that. In 1968, while in a college cafeteria, a man walked up to a group of 3 of us and said, "I need some people for sleep studies, and you get paid for it. All you do is it's dream studies. We watch you while you're dreaming, and that's all you do, and you get paid for it." So I thought, all right, that's a good way to make some money. The last thing I remember is walking into a office building just off of campus, and I walked into the building, and that was the last memory I have. Now, to explain some things to you, there is a program called Driving Program, and in the Driving Program, they can put a person to sleep for hours, days, weeks at a time, possibly months, I don't know. But I basically went completely missing. I was gone. I don't remember anything whatsoever at all until 8 months later. about 7.5 to 8 months later, I wake up and I'm on a bus. I look down at the ticket and it has this person's name on it that I don't even recognize the name. I mean, as you can see, that is my another name, my legal name. But you can understand why I might have changed my name to Miesha, because these negative things that go along with the name Marsha is very tough to experience. So I see that it says Marsha Rose. Who's Marsha Rose? And the moment I said that to myself, or thought that to myself, I had this marker memory, a flash in that, oh, I was married to Charlie, and he didn't want to be married anymore, and he sent me home on a bus so he could go back to go to medical school. And that was it. That was it. And then as I sat there, I had little flashes of unbelievable head problems. My head was killing me, and even at that time I had a headache. But the memories were that I'd wake up and I could hear other people moaning and groaning, and my head, I couldn't open my eyes because the pain was so excruciating. And when that memory came in, another memory popped in and said, oh, you had encephalitis and you were quarantined in your house. Well, okay, so I knew that I was not in my house when I woke up, so that didn't kind of fit. So I kept kind of trying to remember more, and it was like a compartmentalized brain that you could only go so far, the door was locked, and then you didn't have the key to get in the rest of the way. So I had another memory that, oh, Charlie was a Navy Marine corpsman, and he was going to go to medical school. Okay. But I couldn't remember what Charlie looked like. Nothing. I couldn't remember Charlie. I couldn't remember my apartment, supposedly, or house that I was quarantined into. I didn't remember any visits to a hospital. So if you have encephalitis, you'd have a hospital visit, or I could have even gotten it from the children, because it was, at that time, had only been coming out in babies. It's a brain disease. So then I had another memory that I was in a bus with other people, and we were pulled up in front of a big mansion with big iron gates, and oh, we're house cleaners. Oh, we're cleaning oh, okay, so we must be cleaning the house. Didn't go into the house, just that's the memory that came through, that it was cleaning the house. Okay, so that's all the memories I can get while I'm riding that long bus ride home from Seattle, Washington to Idaho, to Pocatello, Idaho. My family, I call them when I get to the bus station. My family picked me up, and they said, "Where in God's name have you been? We wondered. Charlie took you right after the marriage. He took you the very next day, and we had no idea where you went." And I proceeded to ask them about this wedding that I had. Well, I have no memory of a wedding. My family told me, so I put this out here so you folks could see that I really did have a wedding. Folks said to me that in late January or middle of January, I contacted them and said, I'm getting married. He's a Navy Marine corpsman, and he just got back from Vietnam, and I'm getting married, and I didn't even tell him a date of when I think that I was getting married. I guess that's what they said. So then, of course, I have a picture of me and my announcement. Also, here's a picture of my the wedding announcement, and so I had a wedding. I had a wedding dress. I walked down an aisle. I married this man that I have no idea, don't remember him, nothing about him. Also, my sister told me that he was very, very evil, that here comes in that altar. Now, I was gone. My altar had taken over. So during a regression, someone was asking me, well, why don't you remember your wedding? You had a wedding, so why don't you remember it? And a voice came through me, an knowledge came through me. Her name is Darlene, and she said, because it's not her wedding, it's my wedding, and she's asleep like she's supposed to be. Well, at that moment, I had a vision of myself standing in front of a mirror in a wedding dress, screaming, like I'm trying to scream through this body to say, let me out, type of thing, what's happening. And so there was the wedding. Now the other picture is I once again accessed in 1969, same similar kind of situation. Only this time I remember a phone rang. I picked it up. I thought it was a fax machine. So if you ever pick up a phone, if you're an MK Ultra and you pick up a phone and it sounds like a fax machine, you disconnect completely immediately, because it isn't a fax machine. And the next thing I remember again is me 8 months later waking up to my brother at the door, knocking at my door. And the minute, I guess, the door opened, evidently I was awake seeing my brother. It woke me up, or it jogged me up. And my brother was there to bring me a yellow Volkswagen, which, by the way, yellow Volkswagen is synonymous with MK Ultra mind control. These are symbols. And he said that your sister's husband was murdered and you need to come and help her. So I don't remember anything about that time. That time, however, I found out I've done a lot of work on it, hypnotherapy, also many sessions with therapists, and found out that I had been in San Francisco. I had been put on many kinds of oops, I need to go back to that. I've been on putting many various different types of mind-altering machines, such as helmets that caused me to see holographic images in virtual reality. When the units were put on my head, they showed me many ugly things, and they were like coming at me like this, like as an holographic imagery would be coming at me, and they were horrific. They were deaths, they were murdering, they were horrible monsters, there were all kinds of things, and it just kept happening to me. They kept doing this to me until I finally desensitized and was able to handle all those pictures without the fear and the screaming and crying. I was in separate sensory deprivation areas. I had locked in dark rooms and with no food or water. And if I begged for water, I had it thrown on me. I was in boxes of some type. I have very little memory of that, and then I was extremely claustrophobic, and I just couldn't remember a box this close to my face. Also, I remember tanks of water where I actually could breathe in them. I was actually given some kind of a very thick liquid. I drank it, and I actually was able to breathe in the water. Many kinds of trauma-based torture that cause more of dissociation, and that is dissociative identity disorder is what those split alters, it turns out to be. I experienced electric shock from metal bands around my head, and I believe that these have not only caused the dyslexia, that really severe dyslexia I have. So it's kind of hard for me, even though I public speak and I have a radio show, that dyslexia pops up often. And also they gave me a tremor. I believe that electric shock gave me a tremor that sometimes people see in my head movements. The military is interested in developing brain implants as well, holographic image projections, cloaking devices, mind-altering weapons, remote viewing, and genetic research. Now, can you see these are the kinds of things that they were doing back in the 60s, 70s, 80s to now what they can do with the drones, with so that they can, with the drones and HARP and the satellites, they can use this against the public with these with the targeting, so they can cause a person to have excruciating pain in their body, any place in their brain, in their heart. They can cause holographic imagery in people through these implants that they've implanted in people. They can they use like I said, mind-altering weapons on people. They cause people to basically do remote viewing. I remember being in remote viewing classes that I was forced to do. Now, in my research, I found that retinol, ketamine, have become known as the date rape drug. Well, these or a predatory drug, because they are used to incapacitate someone in the purpose of committing a crime. It's often sexual assault in the street and such as that, but and people make a big joke of it that it's the roofies, but roofies is the same kind of thing. They can side effects of this are can cause dizziness, disorientation, loss of inhibition, loss of consciousness. Produces amnesia, causes a victim to be unclear of what the crime was that was committed. So this is a major thing that they use. In fact, I've talked to even some of the people who have been involved in my experience, and they tell me how they use these drugs to transport the monarchs. And a monarch is, let's say Marilyn Monroe was a monarch. Many of the Hollywood icons are monarchs, Britney Spears, to name a bunch. There's so many of them. But monarchs can be used to be couriers. They can be used to be identic memories, photogenic memories, so that they can actually remember and recite something to somebody. Of course, they can be used sexually to put somebody in such a situation, so now they can be blackmailed. A politician, a senator, congressman, a dignitary. In fact, through my regressions and such, I did find out some things about my first lost time, which when I said I went to those iron gates, well, I was in a bus with young men, 11, 12, 13, and other women, young women my age, 18, 19, and we were taken through these big iron gates, taken around to the back, brought up into the back hallway or back up deck stairs, and brought into rooms. And we were the party favors, as in sexual party favors. So they use the Monarch and the Montauk boys. The Montauk boys have many memories of the same kinds of things as well. And I know that those were Montauk boys in there with us. I also had some other memories that came out about being in the hospital. That was what I woke up in, was rooms. I don't know if it was hospital. It was probably a psychiatric ward someplace. But they would drug us when they didn't need us. And then we'd sleep and sleep and sleep. Also, they'd use hypnosis and psychosurgery separately combined were the tools for the quest, the ultimate truth serum on the one hand, and the capacity to create an agent who could not have his or her mission tortured out of them. Because you see, we didn't even know we had it. We didn't even know there was another me, that there was a Darlene. And since I found out that there was a child, and I also know that there is Charles, is the other one. More of the sophisticated drugs were experimented on, such as LSD, ketamine, psilocybin. They did lobotomies, like as I said, electric shock, all kinds of other different ways, so that they could make a sleeper if they wanted. In fact, many of Monarch and possibly Montauk, the Montauk and possibly the Monarch are sleepers. Some of those sleepers that you've seen do some of the dastardly things of going in and shooting up people. So in 1980, I had a lot of abductions, a lot of military abductions. This kind of alien came to me. It was a very raptor kind of looking reptilian. It was either the Greys would come and pick me up and take me out, or these would come and take me out, and sometimes it was also human military that would come and take me. So that went on throughout my life until 1989. And in 1989, I had my first encounter with this being. He showed up first time in this energy orb, and there was a beautiful, loving energy, and I saw him for a lot of my experiences only like this. And I'd been on board the ship. I had been experienced all kinds of things. I had been with the willowy one. I was also shown a time a big screen, and I was shown all these kind of flashes, and then all of a sudden there was this devastated and I knew it was Washington, D.C. It was an ecological disaster. It was a totally devastated planet, and then it scanned out into the entire planet, and they said to me, "Is this the Earth you wish to live on?" And that's when I realized ecologically what we were doing to our planet. And many people who have had these experiences, many have had these kinds of experiences, and you know, they're your people who are ecologically realize that, you know, we are just destroying Mother Earth, and that we, at least as citizens, have to do our part to help in this situation. You know, recycle. There's just so many things that you can do to help. Grid work. We have some people in my group are doing grid work where they can actually help Mother Earth with the grid lines to maybe hasten the end of our planet. So then also I was shown classrooms. I was taken to classrooms. I would be sitting in a classroom with a lot of other people, not really being able to tell, other than know that they're people. I don't recognize them. I was looking at this wall, or actually it's the glass, so you can see through it and you can see space, and all of a sudden it changes, and now it's a big screen, and there's all kinds of languages, all kinds of different things. And then of course also, and I don't know if it's earplugs in our head or they telepathically do this, but I was being taught how to speak the language. We're being taught how to understand the language, to read it and things like that. So later that has come into my life as well. There were other experiences. Let me see. I don't want to make sure I have enough time. This, of course, one night I said, I saw the energy, this beautiful energy, and I said, "You're not really this energy. Could you please show me who you really are?" And the telepathic message said, "Well, are you sure? Are you ready?" And I said, I'm ready. And he said, "Are you sure you're ready?" And I said, "Yes, I'm ready." So he kind of dissolved that energy, and there was this 7.5-foot reptilian, but still with the beautiful, glowing, loving energy that I felt, and with these beautiful yellow gold eyes. It was more of like well, in my opinion, he was more of an amphibian type. He was pretty muscular built, but yet not really like a lot of other reptilians, and more of an ambassador is the feeling and the message that came through. Also, at the same time that was happening, my children were being protected by this being that kind of looks a little bit like a otter, I guess. But it would, my kids would wake up and there this being was standing at the foot of their bed, protecting them night after night after night. So things changed in those abductions, and the Chikara, which was that race before I showed you, were not able to get me because Ayano, actually one particular night, they came into my room through, by the way, the computer. All of a sudden, I'm at the computer, an image of them comes up. The next thing I know, they're standing right beside me. I realize this is it, I'm going, and there Ayano comes in through this vortex, and all of a sudden they disappear. So he was to protect me. And then also my kids at one time saw, we woke up, my son was laying in bed. This tall, willowy one came to him, and he said, "Do not be alarmed. We're not here to harm you or your mother. We're not here for you." And so my son at that moment saw the door to the hallway was open, and saw this blue light, and he saw one gray, and then he saw me vertically laying, levitating between another gray, and levitated. And at that time, I remember that experience, that I levitated right out the window. And I remember that energy was different. It was something I can't explain. This energy, it was can't explain it, but this energy happened. I went out the window, and at the very moment we got the other side of the window, I said, "How did you take me through a window?" Telepathically, I said that, and they said, "We took you to a window when there was a time when there was no window there." Many experiences. I have to move along here. So I was, as I said, I had the support groups. I was the director of the UFO Contact Center International, and facilitated and founded support groups. That started in '92, and I founded the first teen and children's support group in America. My hybrid program was shown to me many times. As the first one was the willowy one, once again, and I was taken to what really it was just kind of dark, kind of a blue ambiance light, and another big, a tall one like him walked up, and I took her to be the nurse maid, and she had a baby, and she handed me this baby and put it in my arms, and it was just so scrawny, like this picture. It was just this scrawny little baby, but I just immediately bonded with it and knew it was my baby. And at that moment, a image was shown in my head of other people seeing, being presented babies, and some screaming or putting their hands up, won't touch them, some dropping the baby, one man dropped the baby, others backing up and screaming and not wanting anything to do with it. And they said to me, this was a success. So also at this point, I'd like to tell you that along with our ET hybrid programs, there are also government hybrid programs. Another experience on my hybrid was I was in a nursery, and there were many children around, and older children, all different ages, and I said to the nursemaid, "Which one's mine?" And she said, "They all are." So it was something like, I don't know, 14, 15 kids there. And then also another experience where there were children. Can't tell you for sure if these were my children at that time, same children or not, because I only remember focusing in on one particular child that was completely different than the more humanoid, very human, but different colored children. They were all kinds of different colors. I mean, blues and yellows and even a light green. But this one walked up and walked in through the children, and it was a this one on the left, and I at the time he was like about 3 years old. Later I had this drawing done by Casara to depict what he looked like, but he was a little bit thicker and squattier than the rest, and I knew at the moment I saw him that he was my child. And this is another one of my kids, my son, and he came to me later in life. Now, it's a possibility. I can't tell you for sure if it's not the same one grown up. It very well could be, because I don't have the answer to that. And there's so many different types of experiences that people have had. Mine were in like on wall, not quite the same way as this, but the incubators and such were on the walls. Other people have seen the incubators in different ways. Again, like I said, throughout my life I have the positive ET experiences, and then of course I have my lab experiences as well. So I started remembering more and more of my lab experiences, and the harassment got very bad. Phone tapping, black helicopters, a particular situation where I was out with a friend who'd taken pictures of the aurora just before, had an experience where we were chased by a helicopter. And then I was chased in cars. I was followed. There was many things. My mail was tampered with. So these are things that happen. I moved to San Diego and to work on a project there. And I started the Art Bell Chat Club. Or actually, I was the Art Bell Chat Club but I was the San Diego organizer for that. I brought in speakers and such there, as well as I did with the ones here in Las Vegas. And in fact, I will tell you at this moment too that we have a MUFON here in Las Vegas. So if you're in Las Vegas, we have a MUFON group. I'm an organizer. We have our director, Steve Wolowitz, and but we have meetings that we bring in speakers. We also do some Skypes. We also do some other group organizations. So please, check my website, starseedawakening.org, and you can get that information about those as well. But so back to San Diego, my lab experiences just continued on and on, all kinds of different things. And I met Melinda Lesley. Melinda and Lesley and I decided to go together and work on a project, a book that we wanted to research. Now, she's a specialist in the MyLabs, and I am more understanding and know about the MK Ultra. So we decided to write a book together, and we were in the researching process of it at that time. And the book is called Covert Military Harassment, Surveillance, Interrogation, and Mind Control in Extraterrestrial Abduction Experience. So Melinda and I researched and had hours and hours and hours of footage and taping of people's everything from military, ex-military, whistleblowers, some special forces, all kinds of different people. So one night after we had been on Art Bell radio show, and incidentally during Art Bell radio show, I brought up because I had a phone and she had a phone, and this was like really very bad phone coverage and such. I can't even remember. I think it was one cell phone and one house phone. She was on the cell phone and I was on the house phone. So I was being asked some questions from somebody, said about, so when you were in your underground bases, what did you see? And I said, oh, well, I saw all kinds of species. I saw grays, tall grays. I saw reptilians. I'd no sooner got reptilian out of my mouth when my whole phone connection went down. So it took me about 20 minutes to get mine back up. And once I did, the subject had moved on. And so I never got to really get into detail about all the reptilian that I saw, the different types of reptilians. One experience while I was walking down a hall with a reptilian I was right beside him, and as I walked down the hall, I saw military guys, and usually all of them do carry guns, and he walked by, and they were always looked me up and down. They'd look at me, but they'd never look at him. And I said to myself, I know there's a reptilian walking next to me. And that very moment, he telepathically said to me, that's because they are not. They know how they must honor us. They cannot look into our eyes, and so I could see where the pecking order came from. There, at least on that level that they had taken me to in the underground base. Later on, that experience or another experience I had with the similar type of AT, which was much like that green one I'd showed you at the very first, the darker green. With the longer nose, I said to myself, why in the world do they want to abduct our people? Why do they want to invade our planet? Why don't they just, go to their own planet? Why do they want to invade our planet? And as I thought that, immediately, again, the same reptilian thought came through, and he said, because it's not your planet, it's ours. We were here first. We were here long before humans were. So I went, okay, dinosaurs, raptors, moving underground, I can understand it. So now it gave me a completely different look on why they feel this is their planet, because perhaps they were here before more of the influx of the star seeds and the I'm not even sure if they were maybe at the same time the Anunnaki were here and things like that. So I could understand how they feel. Of course, nothing ever makes me understand how human beings can be working with factions that are service to self and of ETs. I can never forgive that.
Hey, Miesha, this is Jonah. If you can, you have a few minutes left. If you want to give out some of your information and stuff, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Alrighty. So I'm just going to tell you, you can go to starseedawakening.org. We were actually abducted and ended up having this reptilian come and scare me more. This is talks about the children. I have a lot more I can share. Maybe if there's any time on the webinar, I can come back and share more. But you can be on starseedawakening.org. You can go to my Facebook sites, that's Starseed Awakening and ET Experiencer groups. You can go to my MK Ultra, My Lab, DID, Super Soldier, Targeted Individual and Ritual Abuse group on Facebook. These are all, I also run my events through that. I advertise and talk about my events on Facebook. I wanted to show you about the aliens that they took pictures of. There's just some really amazing pictures that I wasn't able to get through. You can email me at starmisha99@yahoo.com. And there's all types of, of course, come to my radio show. And I guess that's it. Thank you so much for listening.